Hey everyone, Livelock here with a Shadow Priest video because of the talent tree announcements. Now, I haven't played Shadow Priest in a long time, since probably the end of the last season, when I was going to main Shadow Priest, and I switched away from it for reasons that we'll get into in this video. But I just saw the videos of Max with his group of people, and Nick Knock, who's another Shadow Priest player, going over the trees. So I thought what I would do is, since I'm somewhere in between casual and hardcore. Like, I'm not a theory crafter, but whenever I do play, which is of limited time, I only ever care about like doing well in my performance. So sometimes I'll just play like a ton, sometimes I'll play like not at all. But whenever I do play, it's because I want to actually, like do good damage. That's the only thing I really care about. Or when I'm tanking, for example, like push high keys. So I'll be like a semi casual point of view. There's a lot of stuff that they said, so I'll give a recap of the stuff that they kind of agreed upon, the general consensus of the videos in uh in Max's video as well as Nick Knock's video. Um, and I agree with a lot of what they say. So I guess I'll summarize what they said as bad stuff. For them, a lot of the video ended up like they were talking about the tree, but a lot of what happened in the video was the tree bringing up bad things about Shadow Priest that the tree wasn't addressing. So they came to the conclusion that uh, Vampiric Embrace is bad. I think I agree with that. I think this was triggered because somewhere in here, Vampiric Embrace is now something that you have to actually pick over here on the left hand side, and they were of the opinion that if you have to pick this thing instead of damage, you're never going to do it, which is probably true, and that's because it's bad, which means it doesn't do enough healing for the duration of its cooldown for which is 2 minutes, and I think I agree with that. And in addition to that, I would say it's a bit more clunky than than uh than they're letting on, because one trade-off that you have to make with Vampiric Embrace is that it lasts for what is this? It lasts for 15 seconds. But the only way you're going to get a lot of healing out of this thing is if you do it during your cooldowns. But our cooldown window is already very, very tight. So we have this problem right now where there's still no consensus in Shadow Priests across like Discord and actually just Discord, I guess, and in the game, where like some people choose to put Unholy Nova on the outside of Shadow Form, and some people choose to put it on the inside. And it's not a huge deal, except it's just it's happening because we have so little room in our CDs in the first place that we have to actually, put thought into, do we add this inside or outside? So this thing has to actually fall into the same category where, like, do you want to actually spend one GCD of your void form triggering Vampiric Embrace? Probably not, right? But then where do you put it? Like the entire rotation for our CDs is going to be like Mindbender, then you're going to do your your Mind Blast, and then you're going to do your Shadowboard Death, and then you're going to do your Unholy Nova, and you're not going to add it here because you don't want to delay the onset of your Void form when you do your Unholy Nova. So you're going to add it to the beginning, which means you get like 7 seconds of it, which is fine because like once you're in your CDs, it'll be just fine. Like you'll probably top everybody off when you're actually bursting, but it's still like very very awkward. So like we have a lot of like very awkward problems like this right now. Like we give up half of our Vampiric Embrace duration, for example, for because like we're not going to put it into our CD window, and if we don't do that, we're not going to use it at all. But I agree with what they're saying there. I agree that Vampiric Embrace is bad. Um, if it were off GCD, that could fix that problem. If it did like a lot more healing, or if it did like a different effect instead of healing, and if it was like a way shorter cooldown, because like I mean it's not that powerful, right? Like it's we can top the group every 2 minutes, and I don't know. It's very underwhelming. I would never take it instead of damage. Like in its current form, it's like decent, but if I have to pick between that and like dispersion over here, like I need that to live, right? Um, so another thing that they ended up agreeing on was that Shadowflame Prism is like I shouldn't say bad. They kind of said it's like meh. Like they don't like it. They don't like Shadowflame Prism, and I actually agree a lot with them. In a way. Um, so I really liked Shadow Priest. When I started playing it, it was the previous patch, and we didn't play Shadowflame Prism. We played the Necrolord Covenant, like the before they nerfed the Unholy Nova dude that came out, and that was really nice because the rotation was very nice and smooth, and all of these synergies ended up coming out with Shadowflame Prism, especially with Searing Nightmare. You end up in this situation where you either have to you always lose. You either lose by capping your insanity, you either lose by capping your mind blast charges, um, you either lose by having to cut short your Searing Nightmare so that you can consume your Mind Blast proc, your Dark Thoughts proc. Like there's always ways that make it like very very awkward, and it also complicates the rotation a lot. Some people like this because like Shadowflame Prism will be better at lower target counts than Searing Nightmare, and then Searing Nightmare is relegated to like larger pulls. But you still have to use like your Mindbender. So I find it does a very weird thing with Mindbender that the rotation doesn't feel natural to include. I would prefer it if they just didn't have this, if they had like other ways to do AoE damage, or they were to lean into other abilities to do AoE damage. For example, they talk a lot about Auspicious Spirits. Like this is my favorite build right here. At the end, I'll show you guys like the why I like Shadow Priest a lot, the playstyle, but the way that it has to be played for max damage right now is very, very clunky and unfun. So I'll get to that towards the end. Another thing that they threw out was that Mind Bomb is bad. I have to agree, because, like, I mean, when do you even use Mind Bomb? I've never even picked it. Maybe it can be good in, like, some niche situations, but, like, I don't know. It's not good enough to even want me to tempt me to try it. Dots aren't played into was one of the things that they ended up concluding, and I kind of agree with that. Like, we kind of throw our dots out there, and then they're like a nuisance or a hassle. Like, then we have like maybe 10 seconds or so out of cooldowns before we have to reapply them all again manually. And in Mythic Plus right now, it's just like a nightmare because here's this last key was a Theater of Pain. Even in Theater of Pain, a survival hunter will just like destroy everything before you get a chance to do anything with them. So like all I end up doing is like, you know, the first if it's a 5 pull, I'll spend 5 globals. So that's like, you know, at best in like really high haste situations, that's like 6 seconds of the pull is gone right there just to applying dots. That's like setup. And then before I can get into my CDs, I need 1, 2, 3, 4 more globals. So we're talking like we're 15 seconds into a pull before we're really starting to actually ramp, or before the ramping is done and we're actually doing damage. So that's obviously not great. Another thing that they said are oh, sorry, and the big point there is that dots aren't being played into. Like, because our dots are out there, it doesn't actually change very much. Like, we put our dots out there, and then we were to like spam Searing Nightmare, right? It has nothing to do with Vampiric Touch. It doesn't even trigger the Auspicious Spirits, right? It's just like we have dots and we have this other thing that we have to do. And then a lot of the conversation was about how our AoE rotation is very bad, and like this video, like when Max was going over the other trees that existed for the classes that were released, which I guess are like Druid and Death Knight, they ended up talking a lot about like, you know, the trees themselves. But in this video, it's just like, oh man, these trees are just, you know, not addressing our problems, which is like our terrible clunky AoE rotation and capping issues, and nothing in the tree was really helping us do that. There are weird things like Vampiric Touch is like, you know, you can not get this but get Misery. So the tree is in a very like clunky, weird state. And you know, there's like AoE stuff all over the place. Like there's Mindseer. No, there's like somewhere over here is our Searing Nightmare that we have to get. I'm not sure where it is, but it's not above Shadow Crash, right? It's not paired with the AoE talents. Like Shadow Crash is over here with like Psychic Link, which you know, it's like a spread cleave thing, I guess, but it's very very weird. The middle was something that they thought was good, which is like kind of nice. I didn't like having to pick between Ancient Madness and Hungering Void, so that's great. But Surrender to Madness, as they pointed out, is like still a weird talent that isn't anywhere near good enough to justify picking. So, going on a little bit, just still recapping what the consensus was. Another thing that was called out as being bad was the fact that we're even judging this at all on Wowhead. Like, why are we like? Where is the official calculator that we can use so that we can give them real feedback? This is such a weird thing. This is why I don't really have any faith for Dragonflight. I feel like it's not gonna actually go very well because they just still make like such weird bad choices. Like how could the tree get out in this state? And if we're wrong about the tree being in this state, for example, if Insidious Ire. So one weird thing that happens, I'll just pick a bunch of random stuff just to unlock the tree down there. Let's see, get all of Hungering Void, Ancient Madness, get this, whatever this is, and then I need some more points. What do we want? Mind Bomb, I guess. I finally took Mind Bomb. You're happy. Now we can pick Insidious Ire without picking this, which makes like no sense visually with this tree. But like, who made this tree? Like some guy at Wowhead, right? Like this isn't even a real thing. Like they gave us like a text description on the forums of the talent tree, and now we have this thing that we're using. So we just have like a real way of actually testing things. It should be in game. We should know that all of these things are like as they were intended. That's like another weird piece of feedback. Weird piece of like of item that interrupts feedback that exists that didn't have to exist. Another thing, dispersion being mandatory. I agree. It's like why like we always need it. So I mean, it's kind of like how they're doing like silences in the trees or interrupts. Like it's a very weird thing that they're doing. Like it's a very forced choice. Like people are gonna always choose these things. It's not gonna be interesting at all. Like you're always gonna pick dispersion. There's no real choice there. It should be like a part of the core kit. Which I mean, some of these things like vampiric touch. Like how do you even level up? What abilities do you have when you're like leveling up to even like kill enemies with? You just like melee them until level 10, or maybe that I guess they just like make you pick a specialty when you're level 1 now instead of level 10. I'm not sure how that's gonna work. Ramping is very bad in keys. This is like a small point, and I agree. Nothing over here really. Like the more you play into dots, the worse your class is going to be in keys, because every class that does like giant on-demand damage is going to just like surpass you right away, which is like what happens even in Theater of Pain. And Surrender to Badness being redesigned, I went over that already a little bit. The things that everybody thought were good were, so this is Public. This is one of the Shadow Priests in Liquid, and this is Nick Knock, who is in maybe Sonic's Imperative, I think. I'll have to well, I won't correct it, so if it's wrong, then it's wrong. Everyone pretty much liked Auspicious Spirits, and the bottom of the tree. The bottom of the tree does look pretty cool to me. I don't know what they do though, so like I don't know how. I guess we know more about the emotional state now. It's like somewhat of like an IQD thing. That's okay. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I want to play with it to see how it feels. These things could be cool over here, like when you're summoning this idol guy for 20 seconds. It's probably just like a little guy that follows you around and hits stuff. But if they were to make it like the faceless guys, the faceless void guys that are pretty common, those models with like the elephant faces, like that would be pretty cool if he's actually big and intimidating. Having that guy follow you around. Although maybe he'll just like destroy your camera angles or something, which is like I wouldn't put that beyond them to do that. And the other big thing that was pretty good universally was the Dark Thoughts changing into Vampiric Embrace. So right now, we have to basically channel forever, hoping to get a Dark Thoughts proc, but we don't want to channel. Like we have all these other buttons that we can press, so like we don't end up channeling all that much. And the 4-piece makes it decent enough, but you can see like I still am not getting like a proc here, and all of this stuff comes only during like manual intervention. I don't just man, give me a Dark Thoughts proc. I've been so unlucky in keys too, because Dark Thoughts is so RNG. Okay, now I got one. Off of Devouring Plague. But making it more like Devouring Plague, which is what they're doing, because they're making it tied to like these asynchronous actions. Like I'm gonna throw all of my Vampiric Embraces out, and now Vampiric Embrace is gonna be the thing that gives me Dark Thoughts procs. It's called something else now, but it's the same thing. All of these little things I put out there, now they're gonna be actually taking and giving me these procs, instead of me having to just like sit here and wait and fish and like actively fish, because we have so much we have such a busy rotation and we have so much insanity that like having to do that for any period of time. First of all, we don't get to do it ever, so like what's the point? Because we always have like in our CD windows at least, like we're always having to do all these things, and we can never even we can't even as it stands be optimal, because we're definitely going to end up capping insanity. So I agree with this. I think this is a good thing. And there were a couple of good ideas that were thrown out there, which were along the lines of like replacing Searing Nightmare. Everyone hates Searing Nightmare, and I have to agree. And just like as a quick like aside, you can see like why here. I'll do. I'm playing right now the fun build. Like this is the build that should be really good with Shadow Priest, but it's not in AoE at least, and that's like very frustrating. So playing this build, everything like synergizes, everything feels good. Like your a lot of your damage comes from your shadowy apparitions, and they only work because you're doing your dots. So you have to like actually do all these things. Um, but the way you end up playing, especially on fortified weeks, is with Searing Nightmare and Shadow Crash. So it looks very bad, in my opinion. It looks like this. You start by getting all of your dots out over here. Then you start getting your Mindbender out. And so far, I mean, I'm already overcapped, right? Like, I'm permanently capped right now. And there's no way I can do everything. And now I'll start doing Searing Nightmare spam, right? But now everything else suffers. Like, how do I use my charges of like Mind Blast and Void Form and like the real answer is you don't, right? Because it's more damage to ignore them. That's so stupid. Like you shouldn't have to. You can't. You shouldn't have to do that. It makes no sense. That's the part that's like so frustrating to me. And if you ignore things like your Void Bolt, then your dots fall off while you're doing Searing Nightmare spam. It's just like it's very, very frustrating. It makes no sense that you have all of these things and you just ignore all of them and you do Searing Nightmare spam. Like, and in order to do Searing Nightmare spam, you have to commit to three moves in a row. You have to do Mind Seer and then Searing Nightmare, which is so stupid because even if you wanted to like just like use every Void Bolt, you couldn't at that point, right? Because Void Bolt comes, it's every third ability, but you don't have a chance to use it every third ability anymore because in larger pulls, like your Searing Nightmare will be way higher priority. But if you were to go, now I can't do it for another 48 seconds, but if you were to go with Misery, just like get rid of Searing Nightmare and Auspicious Spirits. I mean, Shadow Crash is fine. It's not a huge deal, but I find Auspicious Spirits just have a lot more synergy with your like actual core kit. It's like more fun to play with. And Shadow Crash is fine, but you just like you press it, every 24 seconds. It's not like a really fun thing to manage. Um, it's okay, but Auspicious Spirits get you into this feedback loop of like sending out like what it could be, which is not what it is at all. Is it could be like the core of a really cool like funneling build where you're just like spamming out Devouring Plagues on one target over and over again, and every time you use Devouring Plague, you're generating all these spirits, and they generate all of these different sorry, they return you the insanity, and then you're just like funneling this like feedback loop over and over again. But as it stands, like your funnel isn't amazing. So here I can have damage on Skull. So okay, this is how I want to play, and this is how I'm playing now, even though it's less damage because like the other one is so stupid. So here, same thing, except now you actually care about all your buttons, and we'll go into Void Form. But even like this, you probably end up overcapping. Yep, so there I'm capped. The Devouring Plague. Yeah, so now I'm falling behind because there's no way to not overcap. Which kind of feels bad because like I'm trying to like keep everything up, but yeah, it's very tough. But that was way funner. That was way funner, right? I would much rather that be the playstyle. That would be a lot more attractive to me than having to do like okay, Searing Nightmare, Searing Nightmare, Searing Nightmare, Searing Nightmare. Like that part. I wish they would just change that. They just get rid of all of that. And I guess the takeaway from the tree is I don't have. Oops, this is my Theater of Pain that's still playing in the background. I was gonna reference it for something, but I guess I never did. Where's the tree? Here's the tree. The tree doesn't really address any of that. And as long as the shadow as the Mindbender Shadow Flame Prism build is like a thing, I don't think we're gonna get too far. We're not gonna have like a very smooth rotation. Like to me, we had a very nice rotation in patch 9. or 9.1, right? 9.1.5. That's when I started playing Shadow. Like without Shadowflame Prism, like you didn't have to worry about like well, they need to give us like a different AoE ability. Like that's they can't take this away and not give us an AoE ability because we actually have no AoE spender or no way of doing AoE damage. Besides they could really play into is it Psychic Link? Yeah, Psychic Link. They could really play into a Psychic Link build, in which case, you would be forced to keep up all your dots on as many people as possible. If they would just give you some form of dot extension, which is something that they brought up a couple of times, they were talking about like making Searing Nightmare into something like a dot everybody thing right now, but I think it would be kind of more interesting. I'm not sure if it plays well with Psychic Link. It could actually. I think it could. So one thing that they could do is they could add Psychic. They can add Searing Nightmare, a different version of Searing Nightmare, as a epidemic style ability, which is what Death Knights have. When you're an Unholy Death Knight, you press epidemic, and everyone with your plague is damaged for for some splash damage around all of them. And something like that, I think, would make a lot more sense. We can like spam that on as many people as we have. Um, if So that's one thing they can do. I know it's like I don't know how to make it not just a ripoff of like what Death Knights do, but I love that idea, and it plays into your dots, and it's harder for us to put dots up in the first place. So it's like a combination of like that and like Fire Nova. And since I've my mindset is so like enhancement shaman focused, like spreading dots some other way. Like as enhancement shaman, it's really nice because you can just send out one flame shock and then you spread it with lava lash more or less passively. Like something like that can be done with devouring plague. They hinted on this in the videos as well. And I think that would be a really good idea. And then like the major form of like if these two things existed, then your major form of AoE damage would be Searing Nightmare spam, which would be like epidemic style, and in between Searing Nightmares, because that would be a spender, you would be using your Mind Blast with your Psychic Link to generate damage. So you'd be going like Mind Blast, like Searing Nightmare, like you'd sear until you couldn't sear anymore. It would just be like a maybe even like a 40 to 60 insanity ability. That would free us up from having to do the Searing Nightmare spam. That would be one thing that would make it better, and it would make sense because it still matters that they're dots. Like the damage is focused around dots. Uh, Searing Nightmare probably can't trigger Auspicious Spirits because then you would just have infinite Auspicious Spirits and Insanity in AoE. But I mean that would be fun. So maybe you could do that, or maybe it only happens when you're in Void form. Then you just then you're just like really going. Um, that's like one option that they can go with. Otherwise, I think the tree is like fine. People don't like Void Torrent. I like Void Torrent a lot, but the channeling like that with our current rotation is like whenever you channel, it always feels bad. Well, the way that Void Torrent would end up being used is like outside of your Void form. So like outside of your Void forms, you still don't do that much. You're still pretty slow and weak. So you have time outside of Void form to do Void Torrent. And that's when I used to do it when I was doing Necrolord 9.1.5 Shadow Priest, and it felt like a good button to press. It felt like you were really beaming them down. So I liked Void Torrent, so I didn't mind that at all. I know that they didn't really care much for Void Torrent, but I think these abilities are like they sound interesting. I'd like to actually see them. Living Shadow coming back. I assume it's the exact same thing as our 4 set, but it does like more spells than just Mind Seer, basically, or whatever it does now. Mind Torrent. I really don't. I really don't like Shadowflame Prism because it's very unnatural. I don't like tying more things to our CD windows. It's kind of just like a patch for us not being able to actually do any AoE damage without taking Searing Nightmare. I would rather they just give us like a way to do AoE damage that didn't involve Searing Nightmare. They can honestly just get rid of Mindseer for all I care. Like just get rid of this thing entirely, Mindseer, or just like make Mindflay Mindseer and make it do priority damage, as well. So that's just one ability. Like it's not interesting to press the AoE version of it. I don't really care about having to do that. And then just give us like a nice way, like a nice dot focused way of actually doing damage. So it's really fun where we can play into our strengths with or our uniqueness with I mean, Misery honestly isn't even that fun. I just take it because like I don't want to take Searing Nightmare, even though like if I'm playing like a DOS or something, then I have to take it because it's so much damage, right? Like you can't get around it. But when you do that, then you can't really optimize or you can't make the most out of your Hungering Void because you can't get the most out of every single Void Bolt because this takes 3. So it's like you always feel like you're fighting the kit itself. The kit, it feels like these spells weren't designed with these spells in mind. So you have to make these dumb choices that make no sense. So I mean that's my current thoughts. I still really like Shadow Priest. I did a couple of keys to get myself into the mood to make this video. Some people had some questions about what I thought about it. I would definitely test it when it came out. I still like Shadow Priest a lot. I hope that they hear feedback like this and make some changes. I would say that I have like a 20% confidence rating right now that this is going to end up well. I think it'll probably just end up exactly the same as it is today. I think they'll maybe make some minor changes in the tree. Like they'll probably, I don't know, like switch some abilities around so it's like not so awkward. I don't think they'll do anything like, hugely exciting here. But hey, I'm staying tuned and we'll see how it goes. So let me know what you guys think about this. I'm not sure if there's any Shadow Priest people left in my Discord or anything. It's been a while since I really played Shadow Priest a lot, but I'm happy to chat in there if anyone wants to. The next one that I actually care a lot about will be Enhancement Shaman. Like that's the next tree that I'm going to be looking out for, and I think they'll probably just end up taking a lot of our current builds and like putting them in there. And the thing I'll be looking out for in that video is like, do they uncap our Flame Shock or make Fire Nova better? Because our AoE is so bad as enhanced for no reason at all. For like as much damage as we do. It's kind of unjustified to make it this bad. But we'll see about that too. Similarly, a 20% confidence rating there. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'll see you guys later.